So here we have prairie grass, also known here in eastern North Carolina as whiskey grass. Now if you look here, you've probably seen a bunch of this stuff all along the trail. Now the main reason I didn't collect the stuff before is this prairie grass is more out in the open. So what I'm hoping is that the wind has kind of come through in this little open patch and help kind of dry some of this stuff out. Now basically all you do, grab a handful and rip it up. Now it's very important that you stick this stuff in a cargo pocket somewhere close to your body so the body heat that you have can help dry this stuff out as you walk along. So in this case, I'm just going to put it in my cargo pocket here. I'm going to grab a bunch of this stuff because this is going to be paramount in creating a just creating a good fire out here in the rain. So let's grab some of this, head on.
If you guys are wondering how much of this stuff you need all that you can carry.
That's right. Can't ever have too much tinder, especially on a wet day.
That's right. Now the rain came through last night and it's been raining all morning. And as you can see, even the cedars, they're soaked. You see that bark there, and even under here. So a lot of our go-to fire starters are really wet right now, but they can still be used.
So over here at this cedar tree, you'll notice some of the limbs here. Just snapped one right here. You'll notice the outside is wet, soaking wet to the touch, and you look in the center there, bone dry. So if you're going to start a fire, maybe with the use of a cutting tool, might want to make some feather sticks, something like that. Remember that these boughs normally have dry centers here if it's been raining. So the outside will be wet. It might soak in just a little bit, but normally the center, the heart of this bough here is normally going to be fairly dry. So remember that as well. All right, let's get started. You'll notice pencil lead size branches here, or twigs rather. And this whole tree is filled with stuff like this. Now, the reason why you want to look for things that are in the tree rather than on the ground, even if you're in the middle of a rainstorm, things on the ground are soaking up all that water. They are not having any space from the ground, so they're basically just sitting in the water. Whereas these in the trees are getting some wind moving through, getting dried out a little bit. So if you can, you really want to try to select kindling that is deadfall in the trees rather than on the ground. Now, if on the ground is your only option, just try to find the driest material that you can. But this stuff right here will work perfect. Hear that nice audible snap? Normally signals a pretty dry piece of wood. So let's collect some of these. So what you're looking for as far as kindling goes, pencil lead size, then about pencil size, pinky size, index finger, and then on up.
You guys can see how wet the ground is. These are pretty useless. Now, you can find dry tinder on the ground after a rainstorm with a little bit of luck and knowing where to look. A lot of times, and I don't see any right here, but a lot of times you'll be able to see on trees where the rain just hasn't made it all the way to it yet. This is an old sycamore. Old dead sycamore. And these right here, this is dry. A little moist there, but I tell you what, I think this might work. So we're going to gather some of this. See if we can get it to dry out along with that grass.
So I began gathering some twigs here, and I thought we need to show this real quick to you guys. Before you start your fire, you need to do a little ground prep. Now, you don't want that wet ground keeping you from being able to start a fire. So basically all we're going to do here, sweep away some of this wet pine straw. Now you might be saying, hey, that's wet ground right there. Well, you beat me to it. What we're going to do is lay some sticks down and try to keep the moisture from the ground and this pine straw from soaking it all out and putting the fire out before it even gets started. So now I'm just going to grab some larger size branches and twigs, lay them down, make a base of sorts for this fire. Also going to grab some rocks, just make a little ring, dress it up a little bit, and then we'll get this fire started.
Here's more of that dry pencil lead size stuff here. As you can see, the closer that I get to the tree limb, you can see the difference in color here. This is drier. Still a little moist on the outside. As you get to these tips, these are pretty dry. But you can definitely see a transition. And that's pretty wet. That's not going to do me a lot of good. So we're going to snap these off here and get these ends.
Here we have 4 different piles of firewood, kindling for this fire that we're going to be building. Wet materials. Now, what we have are pencil lead size twigs, as well as some of the stuff that you saw me collect on the trail. This stuff right here. It goes along with that pencil lead size arrangement there, so that's going to work out really nicely. Next up, we have stuff that's pinky finger, pencil size, a little bit bigger. Basically, the main thing to keep in mind here is you want to go from small to large. You don't want to start putting on big sticks right at the beginning. So next up, we have stuff that's probably about index finger size, maybe a little bit smaller. And then lastly, we have the bigger stuff, which ranges anywhere from index size to some of the bigger pieces we have behind us are even about wrist size. So really it all depends on how good your fire is burning and how well you set it up. So,
and you guys can see how wet this is on the outside. And I've taken this taken my hatchet, cut it in half, and that is bone dry on the inside.
That should burn very nicely.
What I'll probably do, I may or may not be tying this in half. I'll split that in half to expose that dry inner wood. May just put it on the fire just like it is. But we'll have to see how this burns.
That's right. So let's get started. So there's 3 things that every fire needs. You need heat, fuel, and oxygen. Now, the wind right now is at my back. It's coming across my back. So what I want to do is configure this fire in a way where that oxygen is helping that fire out. Now, so basically what we're going to do is lay a little framework down. Now, we're pretty much doing the same thing that we did for the fire in fair weather conditions. How to start a fire. That video, pretty much the same thing. Only difference is we're going to be laying a few sticks down. These are they're still a little wet, but to be honest, it's a lot better than sitting it directly on the ground where it's really going to draw a lot of moisture out. So hopefully that's a good enough base right there. So now I'm going to grab the tinder choices of today. Also going to go ahead and grab some twigs along with the medium size selection. Now, first off, again, framework. Gonna take some of these sticks right here and set up a little something for you guys. So, those are to do. So down here at the fire pit, this is another reason to line your fire pit. You see, we just put rocks all around here. Basically, what I'm gonna do, lay a few of these sticks in a kind of a triangle fashion here. Doesn't have to be perfect. All this is going to do is just put a little space in between. Well, you'll see. So today, you're going to be starting the fire with the Bic lighter. Guys, you've seen this thing before. Watch the channel. It's beautiful, and it just works great, especially for the beginner. Bic lighter all day. So for starters here, just got a selection of dry leaves that we found on the way in. These should help quite a lot. Just gonna throw those on pretty much right after we get started here. So now, this whiskey grass has dried out a little bit in my pocket. I feel like this is probably the drier side. This stuff is really going to help this jump ahead here, really jumpstart this thing. This is a lot of dry material, very thin. So basically what we're going to do is just combine these. And what this is going to do is help dry this whiskey grass out. It's really going to go a long way. Basically what I'm doing is just completely wrapping that, because I'm going to light it from one side. So then after this is lit, it'll simply be sat down by the back edge of this triangle here. Sat down, and as that starts to burn down, we'll just take these twigs and lay it up on the framework. Let it catch for a second.
See if I can get around and see some of that flame. I see it with my naked eye.
Oh, it just went out.
Went out.
So guys, that's part of the struggle of fire making in the rain. Now you see that thin stuff is really helping this. There you go. Now we're talking. Okay. So again, you just want to allow this to catch up. So this is
okay. I see a little fire in there still.
you're going to try to easily lay that down. Now, kind of pre-staging my tinder here, or my kindling, rather. I'm gonna let that catch. So, still got some flame. Now, if it was raining right now, you'd want to be under some sort of a tarp shelter. There we go. Basically, all I did was just take that whiskey grass, kind of set it on top, so the flames shooting up and kind of help dry that out. See, it's really starting to really help this stuff out. and there is still a flame under there. I'm gonna start just to put a few of these on top. You really don't want to weigh this thing down and choke out all that oxygen. So you just want to be nice and easy with this. But you do want some of these sticks to go ahead and start to catch up. And to dry out a little bit. Now we're talking. So we're starting to get some flame coming through. Definitely wouldn't call this a success yet because there's still a lot that can go wrong here. At this stage, if you really start piling them on, it can choke this out, especially if you go too fast. But you see there's a good base down there at the bottom.
And the the wind will blow that smoke right back in your face. Let's see if I can see now. All right, there's some of that chaos down there.
What I'm going to do is just lay, well, honestly, I'm going to just put the leaves right on top. Help cause a little flame, maybe. You see we got a good base in there, really starting to catch up, so this fire really should start to go somewhere now. There you go. So starting a fire, rather, if I can talk, can be quite a daunting task for, especially someone who's never done it before. But with a little practice, so you see I'm just using some of these cedar sticks here. These are a little more on the wet side, but you see we're starting to really, this is again why you start small and you start to work up from there, because since we've got such a good base right now, I'm able to lay those more damp, wetter sticks on top and still be able to dry that out. So one thing you don't want to do even at this point is throw that wet pine straw in there. It's just not helping it.
The weather here in North Carolina is just wacky. 52 degrees yesterday, sunny. Wake up this morning, it's 34 degrees, rain, ice, and now the sun's trying to come out. Another beautiful day on this river, though.
So basically what we have happening now is just fires. They've still got a good base of twigs at the bottom. What's happening there, this heat's rising up and it's helping drying all of these, it's helping to dry all of these sticks out. So basically when it reaches this kind of a stage, leave it alone for a little while, because if you do start to pile your bigger sticks on, then it will, even at this stage, it can get smothered out. So you want to take it nice and slow, but you also don't want to be too slow, because then your fire will burn out before you dry out your sticks up top. So basically what you want to do is, after you get that good base of twigs, start laying some of your bigger sticks on, your next size up. Of course, don't go to the big stuff right off the bat. Basically all that's allowing it to do is those good twigs at the bottom are drying out all of this wet stuff at the top. So one thing you might not think to do, if you've never seen it done before, is to blow on your fire. Now basically all that does is just, it allows the heat to rise up, and that intense heat for those couple of seconds that you blow on it can provide more flame. It can really help boost your fire. So basically all I'm going to do now is just start to lay some of these bigger sticks on. We're at a point now where we have a good base, and we can really start to do that.
You see where that is dry.
Nice dry wood in the center. Very good stuff. And that all comes from taking good care and selecting your kindling choices. Taking good care and selecting your kindling, because it really can go a long way.
Okay.
So you can really hear all of that stuff sizzling, and basically what that is the water boiling out of this.
And earlier, these pieces that are really super wet on the outside, I just split these in half with the hatchet. That is beautifully dry wood on the inside. That's a welcome sight. So we're trying to show the fire making with minimal tools, because a Bic lighter pretty much is accessible to almost anybody, really. But not everybody has a hatchet on hand. Not everybody has a K-bar knife on hand to do things like feather sticks and things like that, some of the more advanced fire starting methods. And these are things that we're also going to get into as we progress with this Back to the Basics series. But really what we wanted to show is a very basic way to build a fire. One, in fair weather, like we had in the other video, and then in other conditions like today. Now, right now, you can consider what we're in right now fair weather, but everything is wet, so it makes fire lighting or fire starting difficult. Certainly not impossible.
Now folks, Dad and I never let a good fire go to waste. Actually going to be making up some pine noodle tea, some hot chocolate, maybe even some oatmeal. So I'm going to go collect some pine pine needles off of the boughs. So let's see here. I might have to go up the hill to actually find a good pine tree here. I want to use something like a yellow pine or a white pine. Let's see here, that pine tree might work. Actually got a couple of pine trees along this ridge. So I found this pine tree here. Basically just going to grab the needles off simply by pinching and pulling towards the tree, bending these needles back. Pine needle tea is packed with vitamin C. Pine needle tea is packed with vitamin C. It's just absolutely amazing stuff. So, and it actually doesn't have too bad of a taste. Last time I made it, I had it a little bit weaker, but I'm gonna try to gather some more pine needles this time. So I think I've gathered enough to make some pine needle tea. Basically, just gonna head back, cut these ends up, get them bruised up to release some of the sap, and then we'll have a vitamin C overload. This stuff has on average 5 to 8 times the amount of vitamin C contained in a single cup of orange juice. Pine needle tea is some good stuff. Alright, let's head on back. So folks, you see, with just a little bit of time and structuring your fire correctly, you can get a very nice burning fire with wet materials. Now, the only thing that would change here is if it was raining. Currently, as we were building this, all we would need to do is set a tarp up, similar to how I did it. It was sometime last year, actually. We were at our farm and doing an overnighter. And all I did was set my tarp up and use some fat wood, which is another great resource to start that fire in the rain.
We'll probably go over some of those in another video. The premise for building the fire is going to be the same, regardless. Good tinder source. Start with small twigs, lead pencil size, so on and so forth. The difference with it being a ferro rod or a lighter or char cloth, char punk wood is really the ignition source, not necessarily the fire build itself. So we may or may not go over those. We probably will, because it's just fun and we love to do it.
So I think I've got enough room actually to go ahead and start up on the pine needle tea. So simply what I'm going to be using today is just the Stanley Compact Adventure Kit. Now that I've got all those ends cut off, now I'm going to go back in and begin putting these in my cups. So you want small sections. I'm going to go back and bruise these up. So I've got quite a few pine needles in here. Simply all you do to bruise these things, just kind of twist them around your hand. They kind of releases that sap. Let me see if I can kind of show you guys up close. Kind of want to just twist them, and basically all that does is just releases the sap, and it's going to give you a nice, strong, nutritional pine needle tea. Again, know what you're going to put in your body before you actually eat it, or before you drink it in this case. Definitely don't want to do any harm to you. So, let's get started. Head on over to the fire. Actually, first, before we head on over to the fire, and get some water in this. There you go.
Alright guys, this is the Stanley Adventure Cup. This was the first cup that we ever purchased. It's been a workhorse for us. That's the $5 Walmart cup, and that's a lid that I found on Amazon for it. And we'll have a link to that in the description box below, but you can get that off of Amazon. Fits on here perfect. It fits perfectly on here. Wow, that fire's hot. Alright, so we're going to have some hot chocolate and some oatmeal. Maple and brown sugar. That's the best kind of oatmeal in my opinion. And Nestle's hot chocolate. Not too particular about what kind of hot chocolate it is. I guess I'm not. This is what I've always had, so I've always enjoyed Nestle's. And that should do it. Alright guys, I'm going to let that oatmeal set up a little while. Cover that. I'm going to enjoy my hot chocolate. And we'll let Gabriel get back to his pine needle tea. Good stuff. Phew. That smoke is something. It was blowing that way. There we go. I like it better with milk. Didn't bring any milk today, just water. But it works. Good stuff.
So here we have the pine needles. This is actually the plastic lid that comes with this thing. Now here's that sounds great, but here's the problem. Those strainer holes basically get clogged up instantly when you start pouring this stuff through with the pine needles. So they're just about useless. You'll notice here, they'll work for just a little bit, but like I said, almost instantly, it's getting clogged up. It's kind of, might have to take it slow. Pick you up in the light here.
Now it's coming out perfectly.
Well, it's running out the bottom, you see that?
Yeah.
So it's actually not even going through the strainer holes anymore, but it's holding it back, so consider that a success. Nice. Okay. So, and then you can see you're left with all, see what I'm saying right there? You get all those pine needles caught up almost instantly.
And that's the same for noodles. Whatever you have in here that you're trying to strain, it does the exact same thing. So, I mean, it
would be nice if it worked, but it's,
right.
It's a good idea.
It's a good idea. But
it's just not functional.
Just doesn't work too well.
So, pine needle tea. Had this before, we'll give it another go.
This is a wonderful nutritional drink.
A lot better than mullein tea. Long-time viewers will remember that video. That basically tastes like vegetable juice out of a frozen bag. This actually kind of warms the soul up.
That's right. It's rich in vitamin C. It was used to treat scurvy. I mean, look up some of the history on pine needle tea. It's wonderful stuff.
It really is good. And honestly, again, on a cold day like it is, well, not so cold now that the sun's out, but
yeah, it's actually nice tonight.
It was really cold earlier, but drink like this, absolutely
easy, fella.
Absolutely amazing.
Okay, well, our fire is just about out. We've let it burn down because that's all we're going to do with it today. We don't need to keep it going. I wanted to come out today and just show how that you can make fire in wet conditions. Our intention was to come out and again show it being done in the rain, but it just didn't work out that way today.
Right. So, again, we thank you for joining us today. Hopefully you have a great day wherever you're at. And as always, may the wings of liberty never lose a feather. And God bless.